So I was gonna ask you, are you? Because I don't remember. Are you a big coffee drinker
I don't drink coffee at
at
all.
all?
At all.
What about your wife?
Oh, she's a coffee addict for sure.
An addict.
She's a coffee addict for
Okay.
sure.
So
Yeah.
that's good to know. So
Oh yeah.
is she like she can do regular coffee? She can do any kind of coffee. She only does regular coffee.
No, she drinks different types. I mean, but yeah, she's definitely the type, dude, where it's like no coffee, there's headaches, there's
Dude,
withdrawal, stuff like
okay.
that. Yeah, so
So
that's
if
an
you
addict
see
right
me
there.
tilting my hat up a little bit to get it off my temples, it's because that's coming and I'm
Yeah.
drinking it slowly. I've had zero caffeine.
Nice and steady.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I was getting to be a coffee snob because of this point, but then this guy that I'm working with, because I'm picky about the coffee I drink,
Yeah.
right? And I order coffee now from my favorite coffee supplier or whatever. And I was at work and I was like, yeah, I drink this coffee. Everybody knows the name of this coffee, right? Well, this guy comes out with a French press. And at work, he disappears in the back every morning. He comes out with a French press, dude, and he's pressing his coffee and then pours it into his Yeti. And I'm like, all right, I haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
You're still
It's
you're
another
still
level.
ahead of me.
It's another
So let me
level.
tell you the level of snobbery I'm at with coffee.
Uh-huh.
I'm at the point where it has to be, and not that it's not good or it doesn't work as good, but I prefer brewed coffee.
Okay.
Like I want the ground beans
Oh, okay,
and
okay,
the
okay.
thing, and the turn the
Yeah.
coffee machine on. You
Gotcha.
know what I mean? I'll have a Keurig.
Mm-hmm.
I feel my only thing with Keurig is I feel like they're weaker a little bit. I just feel like
It takes away from the
I feel like
strongness
it
of the
takes
bean.
away with. So what
But
is?
but is Starbucks like that too? Does Starbucks have the beans and they grind them or something
Yeah,
like that?
dude.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have the.
I thought it was like a
grinder.
little more instant, like because it's so fast.
So
paced,
I have an inside track. I have a friend
Mhm.
who shout out. I think she actually listened to this the last time, so right on. But I have a friend who she worked at Starbucks forever. She's a manager, so they brewed the coffee there, and then they even brew coffee just to have that strong smell. Of
Oh,
coffee.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they have now. Don't get me wrong; they prepare ahead of time, right?
Mhm.
They have coffee made,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and ready, and then they'll make more to prepare. But yeah, they have coffee. So does
Yeah.
Alicia? Is she brew coffee or is she a Keurig?
She's
Kinda girl.
Keurig, yeah, and
Okay,
that's
okay.
just because we're money savers, man. But
Which
don't-
is my wife too.
yeah,
She
but
loves
don't
it,
get me
yeah.
wrong. Like if we don't got time to do the Keurig, we'll stop. She'll stop and
Get
get a
the coffee,
Starbucks, yeah.
yeah.
But you've been to other like more legitimate coffee shops, right?
Yeah.
And I think for them though, there's more like not like we're gonna do this fresh, like every like beans, right? Like it's a little more thorough there.
So there's this place near like I think it's like R Street or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Because for a while me and Lex were like driving around
Mhm.
looking for different coffee shops to try.
Yeah.
And now it's a whole thing. Like it's a vibe now, right?
Yeah.
People will go taste coffee like it's like their wine tasting.
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
People it's got a
That's
full body
crazy.
on it. You know what I mean?
Is it Colombian?
Yeah. Exactly. Where was this roasted? I want to know.
Yeah, that's
Colombia,
crazy.
Brazil, more like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are
Yeah.
serious about it, dude. But yeah, there are places where like, I'm not super like I don't have a taste for it or anything like
Oh,
that.
okay.
There was somebody I remember. I won't put them on blast, but I was drinking some coffee. Somebody made me like I don't want to say it wrong, like the Vietnamese coffee type thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was drinking it, and I was like, man, this is good. This is strong. You know, I guess usually you put condensed milk in it. They didn't have condensed milk. I was like, that's okay. Shoot it, right?
Yeah.
And so someone, like I said, shall remain nameless, fancies himself a coffee connoisseur. God bless him. You know, what I mean? I was like, hey, this is strong. Like, and I just know that they don't like real strong coffee. And he was like, no, give it to me. I like it. I was like, hey, it's strong.
Yeah.
It's strong for me,
Uh-huh.
but it's good. I'm drinking it, right? I don't care. Give it to me. Okay.
Mhm.
He takes it. I kid you not, dude. I saw him take 2 sips.
Mhm.
Didn't touch it.
Yeah.
He's like, I love it. I love the taste.
Yeah,
Too
yeah.
strong for me. I was like,
he's like, I'm good for a week after those two.
yeah. I was like, I knew from the start
Yeah.
that we were getting into this.
But let's be fair, dude, because really quick, there is a place here in Sac off of Florin, and it's an Asian spot, but they have this thing, dude, called it's a cocoa coffee.
Okay.
And what it is it's essentially like a blended coffee, and I only knows because like my brother, my sister-in-law kind of got me on it, and I got my wife into it. But it's got fresh coconut in it, like fresh
Really?
coconut chunks in it. That's probably the only coffee I'll do.
It's
That's
got a
like
real
the-
particular flavor. I
Super,
imagine,
yeah.
right?
It's strong. Like you gotta make sure you give it like a good mix before
Yeah.
but it's got fresh coconut in it, dude. So if you're a
Really?
fan of coconut, that's a place. I don't know the name
Okay.
of the
There's so
place,
much
but
out
yeah.
there. Like it's like everybody's got like their own kind of coffee.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I mean I'm sure it's not just here in Sacramento,
Right.
but you can get any kind of coffee
Yeah.
like anywhere,
Mhm.
and it's there's just one place, and we'll get off of this after that. There's this one place where they just have like it's just coffee. They don't do any like blended or anything like that.
Mhm.
They just have different coffees. That's it. Like they
Like
have
like different beans and stuff like
different
that.
beans. Yeah. So
Really?
they just have like the bags of these ground beans, or when they have the whole beans too, but they have
Yeah.
these bags of ground beans, and you just pick your coffee, and
Wow.
it gives you so it's different roast, right? Because there's
Okay.
dark,
Yeah.
right, medium,
right.
light, whatever. It's different strength, and so that's all they do. And so I like
Mm.
that place every now
Mm.
and then because I just go like, it's not real sweet, right?
Yeah.
It's just some coffee.
So they don't do like mochas and like macchiatos
Nothing
and stuff like that.
dude.
Straight
No.
coffee.
And I love it, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a different level.
It is.
I feel
It
like
is.
it's a different level.
It is because like this, like, people would be like, oh, that's not coffee. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
milk.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. Leave me in my coffee flavored milk alone. You know?
No one asked you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Let me live here. But yeah, dude, no, here we are. I'm super excited to be back into it. I think we've gone, I'll be honest, I thought we were maybe even going like too deep down the rabbit hole of relationship, but
Mhm.
after thinking about it, and I was even thinking about it today, like there's just so much you can cover, man.
Yeah.
There's so much from our experience to what we know to what we believe.
Right.
And like we said before, I just want to reestablish this is I'm just happy to have the conversation with you. I enjoy this.
Yeah, likewise.
And I'm happy for others to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
So I just want to reiterate one more time. See, let me get one more.
Yeah. It's
Reiterate.
guys,
yeah. I just want to reiterate one more time that we just want folks to be a part of the conversation.
That's it.
Hopefully it helps some
Yeah.
way, but like I just enjoy getting like eye level, so to speak, with you and everybody else, and just having conversations. So
Right.
we welcome comments, we welcome
Yes.
questions, we welcome, hey, I agree with that, or
Yeah.
hey, what about this? What do you guys think about that?
Ideas, yeah.
We're
Yeah.
happy to be here to just to talk about it,
Right.
and I think like some people, maybe I should mention it, some people have been a little confused. Like we come here and we have an idea of what we want to talk about,
Right.
but we don't have like a teaching, right?
No.
We're not
Yeah,
here. We
no,
don't
no,
have
no.
something. We need to hit these points.
Yeah.
Like again, I've sincerely enjoyed just talking to you over the
Yeah.
years, and I think like there would be people who would maybe benefit or at least enjoy
For sure.
just being a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So I know it's you and me here, but I feel like we have, hopefully some friends out there who
Yeah.
are checking in and just to be a part of the conversation.
We guys have good positive feedback too, man.
Which
I mean,
yeah.
it's, to be honest, and I guess it kind of surprised me at first.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it is cool. I think the main thing, dude, was like we just wanted to be relatable.
exactly.
Right? That was
Yep,
like
yep.
something that somebody could go in and be like, oh, this is just another teaching, or this is just,
Yeah,
two guys who are part of a particular, whatever, and
yeah.
they're just gonna, just talk about all the good and whatever. Like that's not what this is, dude.
Right.
Like,
And
it's-
and on that note, I'm going to try to keep it real. Like, you and I were going over some things before this,
Yeah.
and there were some things that we were kind of like, hey, should we touch that? Should we go there? And for me, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Why? That's the point.
Yeah.
We want to talk about the things that maybe it's like you don't get to talk about as often or
Right.
whatever. Obviously, we're trying to use wisdom.
Yeah.
But we want to. That's kind of why we're here, right?
For sure.
To talk about those things.
For
so,
sure.
So here we
Yeah.
are. We're back, and
Another episode,
I really
man.
I'm really interested to see what you have. I know you mentioned that you
Yeah.
have a couple of things that you've been really thinking about in regards to relationship. I know this is a real deep pool that we're in, so let's keep
Yeah,
diving,
man.
dude.
I think it was something that kind of, well, I mean, a lot stuck out to me watching this is our third episode,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the second one, man, I don't know. There was just a lot that we covered in there that, and I think it's just a personal thing, man. It's just kind of like the journey that God has me on of just talking about how important relationship is. It's something that I'm kind of seeing flood into many different parts of my life, and it seems like God has me on this topic for a reason. And I know a lot of it is because there's just stuff in me, man. I gotta get more wise in, stuff I gotta grow in, stuff that, if I want to be better, if I want to see better, then I gotta do better. And and on top of that, man, it's even like when it comes down to like, to the youth, it's something that we're talking about. And it's crazy because I think before we even set up the podcast, I kind of already had like an envision of where I wanted to take the youth in regards to what we're going to be talking about, and relationship was a huge part of it. And so, kind of, talking to you, talking to Manny, kind of like on the back skirts of what this podcast is going to be about. I'm like, man, okay, like I think this is happening for a reason.
Yeah.
But last episode, we talked about just how relationship with God bleeds into relationship with your spouse, relationship with friends, and I think there's definitely a lot more to go into, and without kind of overbearing people with what I feel or with what I think, just to reiterate, just how, man, when you capture the realization that you treat your relationship with God as you do with your spouse or whoever, and vice versa, I feel like you kind of begin to unlock more different things. Your potential, I feel like you unlock a lot more potential for your relationship, a lot more growth for yourself. And I know not last week, but the last time we talked about it, we talked about some big things, communication, how that's important, how communication with God, it should be treated the same way as you needing communication with your wife or your husband, and it's no different. Spending quality time with each other, like it's all of this stuff. It's I think remembering the idea that God is just not a master. He's not just a creator of the universe in this huge figure that we need to bow down to, but he's a presence that actually longs relationship with imperfect people like us. And it works the same way, man. And I think again, just the more that you put into your relationship with God, the more that you'll begin to see him flow through your life, the more you'll begin to see changes, the more that you'll begin to see things that you can work on. And I know one thing that I kind of brought on the last one, and I hope it wasn't too like I kind of thought about it afterwards, and I hope it was, I didn't mean it to be so aggressive. And at the same time, man, like I don't want it to be like, oh, we gotta edit everything we say or whatever. But I remember last time, one thing that I mentioned when it came to relationship is that if a person is not ready or willing to bend or to be flexible or to compromise in some sort of way, I don't think they're ready for a relationship. And one thing to know is, like, when it comes to Christ, God created us all for relationships, so you do need it. I don't know if you'll really ever be ready to be flexible. I don't know if that's something like, okay, cool, I'm ready to to bend, and I'm ready to compromise, and I'm ready to kind of be a little more selfless. I think it's an everyday kind of thing. You kind of learn as you go along to be those things. And I think a lot of times we fail, a lot of times we mess up, we miss the mark. But I think that's the beauty, man, of relationship, is when you put the effort in to make those changes, you see the fruit of it. You know what I mean?
I think right there, you said something. I can't help myself. You said something like, be willing to bend. But I think there are two ways I think that you can bend. One is admitting when you're wrong, right? That's a huge one, right? Admitting when you're wrong in a relationship. I bring something to you. Okay, I did that. You drop your pride and you admit, all right, I did do that. It was wrong. What about when you don't think you're wrong?
Yeah.
What about when you because I've had those arguments in those scenarios with whoever it may be, man, family, friends. I mean, in ministry.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I've had those moments where I'm not wrong here.
Yeah.
I don't feel wrong here. But the individual, maybe, I don't want to say presses the issue, but they're adamant that this is, well, hey, what you did there's a better way to do it.
For sure.
And I think that's a big way that you have to be pliable. Maybe I don't feel wrong, but is this a scenario? Now, let me be clear though. Like, if it's something where you didn't do anything wrong, and obviously, you stand up for respectfully in the right way. You stand up for that. I'm not saying you bend every time, no matter what, right? That's different. I'm not saying be a pushover.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is, and here's the thing about that, when you're in right relationship with the right people, and you have that relationship of trust, right? Where that, okay, this person is been with me, it has my best interest at heart. I know they do. Yeah. And if they're saying this, they're adamant about it. I'm gonna trust them.
Right.
At least
right.
that's how I feel.
Yeah,
That's how I feel. And so there have been times in that way where, and look, dude, I could be. I'm not just saying. I could be really proud. I could have a real issue with pride in the sense that I don't like being wrong, and it's probably like more of an insecure issue than anything. And I just don't like looking wrong or being wrong, which is something that in my relationship, not just with everybody, but with guys, I'm wrong all the time. I'm wrong a lot.
Right.
And I'm starting to be okay with it, and, but in that regard, for those relationships, I have to be understanding that, okay, you have my best interest at heart.
For sure.
You actually care about me. I know you care about me, and you've shown me in different ways, not just we've had this conversation. You've shown me, and okay, I'm gonna bend here. I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna submit. And it's the same way with God. In my relationship with God, in my experience with God, in my life, before God has asked anything of me, challenged me, first, God showed me that He loves me.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we're pressing this issue about relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Because nobody wants to be in a funky relationship with someone who is just always demanding and commanding and all that. And that's not what God is at all. And so for me, when God first showed me, I love you, I see where you're at, I see where you're going through, I can get you through, I can help you because I love you. From there, now in my relationship with God, I have to be willing, okay, I don't get this. I don't like what you're asking of me. I don't like humbling myself in this area, or submitting in this area, or committing in this area, or being faithful in this area. It's an inconvenience to me. I don't want to, or whatever, but I know what God did for me.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be like preachy or anything, but I just know.
Right.
I know where I've been. I know the heaps of grace that have been dumped on me, by a gracious and merciful God. And I've seen others go through similar things and not have it, go the same way, which, the Bible says we all have different measures of grace, which that's up to the beholder, right?
Yeah.
But because of that, it's like, okay, Lord, I'll bend, I'll and obviously, dude, I fail at that, right? Obviously, I don't always make it. But no, you're absolutely right. I think that's a huge thing in relationship that you have to be able to do. But I think it's those two things. I think it's because when you're wrong and you're wrong. For me, like it's just a pride issue. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Exactly.
And you have that moment where it's like, all right, I'm just being proud, man. Yeah, like, drop it. You're right. My bad. I apologize. But then I think it's a lot harder when you're sure. Right. I don't feel wrong. I don't think I did that wrong. Well, I disagree with you. Yeah. Maybe we just disagree. Well, there's even a right way to do that.
For sure.
And there's a way to bend there rather than just, well, no, we're at an impasse. You feel that way. I feel that way. Forget you. Yeah. That doesn't work either. Yeah. That's not right relationship. So and that definitely translates to it.
It's like, I can't say, dude, any good relationship that I've had, friends, leaders, or whoever, I've never had a good relationship that made me bend or compromise morals or things I believe in. If anything, they've challenged me, right? Yep. So I think, maybe sometimes people are like, what relationship should I have? Or, who should I be building around? And it's something that we're kind of going into here in this episode more, but, and I genuinely believe that it's with the church. I believe it's with the people of God. And, I think that if there's a relationship that's making you bend in some way, shape, or form, that maybe it's kind of you scratching, got you scratching your head like, should I be doing this? Or should I be talking like this, or thinking like this, or joking like this? Start asking yourself, is that relationship good for you?
A healthy one.
And so I think going in, kind of, I guess, kind of bridging this now. I think that was one thing that we wanted to cover today. Something we want to talk about today was relationship in the church. And I know a lot of times, I think for like a lot of people, when they hear church, some of them are kind of like, they might be getting ready to hit that end button or get ready to swipe. But, it's, you guys, people that you got to understand, we're talking outside of rules, outside of the do's and the don'ts. I understand that that's in churches, and it's, for a lot of people that, maybe they don't want to believe it, it's biblical though.
Yeah.
It's something that we were kind of talking about a little earlier.
Right.
And something that is so important that I think for people, and it's something I share with the youth all the time, is your guys' most important relationships can come out of here. Why? Because people are like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
People are here the same reason why you're here.
Yep.
People are here because they believe the same thing you believe.
Right.
And the more I believe that you put yourself around that, the more that you're kind of able to kind of get some more, reality checks in the right way. I think you're able to grow. And I know a lot of times people don't like the relationship in the church because they can't get past the forefront of the church just says this and that, or they just do that, or they don't believe that, or whatever. So in a way, it's like relationship there's also differences in relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
There's different things that you think are right, maybe from me, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But nonetheless, we do believe in the same faith.
Right.
We do believe in the same principle of withholding that faith and where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of times people can't get past the differences, that it prevents them from building relationship. And it's, until you understand, man, it's an attack of the enemy. It's a thing, because the thing is, like, understand there's going to be differences, dude. Like, there's differences in marriage. Like, sometimes you're not always on the same page.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when we kind of consolidated down to more of the, and I think we'll kind of get to the bigger stuff later, but when we kind of consolidated straight down to like just differences, well, I don't agree with on your take on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're gonna allow it to prevent a wedge between you and your brother, sister in Christ, as opposed to like how you just said, there's a way to handle that difference, right?
Sure.
There's a way to communicate about it. And I think a lot of times when it comes to relationship in the church, people are like, oh, okay, well, that just means I got to get in, I'm going to get into ministry, or that just means I got to serve, or that just means, like, dude, it's so much bigger than that, because the church, right, is so much more than just the four corners of the walls that we're in. Yeah. Church is outside too. Church is in with the people of Christ. Church is a people. It's not a building. It's not an organization. It's a people. And I think, more than ever, dude, like, a lot of people, they have a misunderstanding of church. Yeah. You know what I mean? So kind of just going along more on the lines, just kind of talking about it. And again, if people, have ideas or stuff you guys just want to share too, like, feel free to drop it in the chat. Yeah. But going into this is a thing that I think is definitely needs to kind of be chalked up and diced up a little bit, because for those who either have had a bad experience with church, or those who have had no experience with church, I think this is something that needs to get unveiled first. Sure. And I believe the attitude towards relationship needs to get covered first if you're going to thrive in a church. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you laid it out really well there. And we don't expect, I think, to even be able to have a dialogue about this topic just today, because there's so many layers to it. Oh yeah. And I think, at the top of this, talking about this podcast, it was relationship, not religion. And I think where we are now, and where you're getting at today, is relationship and religion. Yeah. So first, what we have to establish is that there is a place for religion. Yeah. Now, religion, the word religion has become a bad word. It's become something that, I feel anyway, that has some negative connotations to it. It's a place where there's judgment. It's a place where there's nothing but rules. Yeah. It's a place where there's just unrealistically high standards. It's a place where people look down their nose at you. It's a place where people try to control all these crazy things, right? Yeah. And look, like you said, there have been bad experiences, right? And right now, we're talking about religion as a whole. Yeah. We're talking about the church as a whole. And the church, from the beginning of the church, has had struggles. Oh yeah. Back to the establishment of the church, Paul was constantly writing letters to the different churches. Hey, figure this out. Hey, work this out. You and your sister here, work this out. Don't let this get in between you. As soon as the church was built, was created, Paul spent a lot of his time. I mean, read the New Testament. Much all throughout of there is dealing with the issues of the church. Right. Because why? We're people, right? And the thing about the church is this: the church, religion,
is necessary. See, there's relationship with God, but we have to make peace with the fact that when we get into relationship with God, there are things that God wants of us and from us.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you're talking about the Great Commission from Jesus is to go out, make disciples of all men.
Yeah.
Look, in anything else, we're looking for community. We're always looking for community. You said it, like-minded individuals. People at work, they're cool people, man. I get along with them.
Yeah.
There are things that we can talk about. But when it comes to faith, when it comes to God, we don't all see eye to eye.
Right. Right.
Okay, but this is a huge cornerstone of my belief of who I am. I rest much of who I am and how I live my life and how I operate as a husband, a father, a person on this one thing. And these folks don't agree with it, don't like it.
Yeah.
Does that mean I have issue with them? No. We talk, we confide with each other, we have relationship with each other. But to build and to continue to grow, it's important that I also be a part of a community that are like-minded, right? Because the church is, and I'm oversimplifying it here. The church is the vehicle of which in which we come together and use to carry out what God has asked us to do.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it is, and it's like I said, that's an oversimplification. It's much more than that, but that's what it is, and that's what religion is. So the church is necessary because before we even get into those other issues, there are plenty of folks who, well, I love God, I serve God. Why do I need to go to church? Why do I need to have a church?
Yeah.
Why do I need to have this church? And the Bible said, don't forsake the assembling of coming together.
Yeah.
And it's in anything else. It's common sense. If there's something you want to grow in, something you want to get better at, you usually want to get around more folks who are like that, who want to be a part of that.
Right.
So that's that, again, an oversimplification. That's the church.
Yeah.
We come together, we do it together. We try to reach together. Now, the church is made up of a bunch of other people. Yeah. A bunch of other flawed human beings.
Different personalities. Yeah.
Different personalities and people who can't, they clash,
right.
And it's hard to get around those things sometimes, especially because just going back to relationship, this thing is such a complex thing. There's so much to it, and then you get around people with strong beliefs, and it's hard. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard, and we clash. But to establish that, the church is necessary. Yeah, religion is necessary, and religion and church is an overflow from our relationship with God. Right. And the truth is some people might not like this and might not want to hear it. Yeah. But the truth is if one's missing, we're not fulfilling that cycle, that circle of relationship. Right. So if we have relationship with God, right, but it doesn't come out in service to the church or community with the church, well, something's missing. Right. Vice versa. Now, I think this is what you're getting at. There are a lot of people who, I believe this. I believe in God. And again, I'm talking about the church as a whole. Right. Across the world. Yeah. Certainly here in these United States, right? I feel that the church can oftentimes be made up of people. I like the morals that go along with God. I like the morality. I like the thought. I like the mentality. I like that it aligns with my politics, right? My political stance, right? Okay, I think I'll get around these people. It's a good thing. Church on Sunday, right? It's a traditional thing for some, right? And I'll come to church. The problem is that becomes robotic. Yeah, that becomes motions. It's just going through the motions, and you have folks who come to church who are never really changing or growing in Christ, right? Which allows, I feel, more room for those issues to happen with people. For sure. And what does that result in? It results in people getting hurt. Yeah. And blaming the church. Yeah. And religion as opposed to the individual and understanding. Now, I don't know about you, but I've spoken to people who, and this is hard because sometimes you come into contact with some people, and I'm not speaking just about the church, who it's just, maybe it's the morality, maybe it's just the way that they think or the way that they are, but they look out for themselves. They don't, care too much about the person across from them or their feelings. They feel that it is their calling in life to just be honest with you and straightforward. And that is it. No tact, no nothing. Yeah. That hurts people. Yeah. And it can't be received. So as I've tried to talk to different people, even my own family, about relationships, and even as it pertains to the church, but not limited to, there's this mentality of, well, everybody's out for themselves, so why shouldn't I be? Okay, but you, man, let's talk about you trying to get the upper hand. You trying to be the, for lack of a better phrase, the bigger person. You know what I mean? Taking the moral high ground, right? Let's try that. Well, why should I? They don't. Why should I? I mean, so it's that perception, even if that was your experience, which may have been a true experience, it can hurt you to the point where it becomes those are the lenses with which you see all people, all individuals, and you just look at everybody and you perceive them as they're just out for themselves. What are you trying to get from me? What do you really want? You know, what are you trying? And you just have this defensive stance. And so there's that old saying is that hurt people, they tend to hurt people, you know. So religion is important. Religion is vital. It doesn't mean what most people perceive it to mean, but it has definitely been. It's made up of people,
for sure.
So we get those things.
And I think service to the church is something you brought up, and again, when I think people cringe, dude, when they hear that, because for those of you who maybe once served and maybe no longer, the fact of the matter is that there's a price. And for those, you know, who maybe have never served before, maybe, you know, you might just feel like, oh, you know, they just want my money, or they just want, you know, my time, or it's because, you know, they can't get anybody else. It's something that I think a lot of people are like, I know I've been lied to about that before. I know it's at times what kept me from volunteering my time and my service to the church. And again, and it's the thought of, it's a thought without, like, it's me not thinking that, you know, that actually it benefits me. You know, I can grow from that. I can actually gain from that. I think giving is probably one of the greatest things anybody can ever do, whether it's your time, your finances, your energy, whatever it is. But investing in something is something that's so important. One experience that I've had, and again, this is just a personal experience. I left. I was gone. I was away from the church for quite a couple of years. And even in that time, you know, I'll do my thing. I understood that I wanted to find church. I needed to be a part of a church. And I remember I went to this church one time. I was going there, you know, quite faithfully, and it was a great church. I didn't leave because they were bad or because there was anything terrible with them. It's just that I knew God had a calling for me here with Legacy Church specifically. And there's a lot more into it that, you know, probably talk about another time. But I remember when it came to the time, I was going there long enough to where they started asking people like, hey, if you want to help out in ministry. And I volunteered. And I remember I went to go sit down, and there was a ton of people. And the pastor came up, and a couple of the different leaders of the ministry came up. And they asked a couple of questions to all of us, very open, very honest. It was something I actually never experienced before when it came to the relationship side. So this kind of began to kind of spark, you know, the idea and the belief that, man, a relationship is important and things do happen because we're all imperfect people. But I remember the pastor asked, he said, how many of you guys have ever served in a church before? You know, a lot of people raised their hand. And I remember he said, how many of you are here because you left a church because you were either hurt or you disagreed with something or whatever? A lot of people raised their hand. And one thing he said, you guys need to understand something right now. This place isn't perfect. And so whatever it is that you think, you know, when it comes to something you like or something that's for like selfish gain, you're probably not going to find it here. So he was saying, you know, the possibility of you being, you know, hurt here by whoever says something or whatever, because he was like, you know, we have hundreds of people come in, all different personalities, all different backgrounds. He said, don't think that you're going to come here and it's just going to be perfect. So you have to ask yourself, you know, why do you want ministry? Why do you want this? Because if you're here because you think we're perfect, he said, you know, you guys might get a wake up call, you know, and then what? You guys going to go to another church and try to restart the process? I think a lot of times, man, people leave or they made their choices based off of what happened to them.
Mhm.
And again, I know that this could be some touchy waters for some people. I understand that. I just know that for me, again, my testimony with this is that I left and I stood away because there were some things I didn't want to face. Was there some hurt? Yeah, but I could honestly say that it wasn't anything to legitimately drive me away. It all had to do with my reaction on it.
Mhm.
All had to do with how I didn't respond, or how I didn't handle it. I think a lot of people, when it comes to service, and again, I don't know why I kind of gravitate towards the service part. But people, understand, man, like when you give of yourself to something much more bigger than you, um, it you benefit from it.
Mhm.
You feel better. But even outside of that, God blesses that, man. God blesses your work, and there's a lot of things that we have to there's a lot of things we have to adhere by. There's different standards, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're in ministry. So I guess I kind of target those who are once in ministry and no longer because of whatever. I could honestly say, man, that it was much different from when I was coming and just attending and sitting in the chair and going home than from coming and actually being a part of the body.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And I don't think I could also say, man, that it wasn't until I started choosing, like, hey, man, I need to do something, and these are the people that I need to deal with. That's when I truly started benefiting and growing in my life.
Yeah.
Not only that, but even in my mind, in the way I think.
Mhm.
And you have to understand, like, just like at work, you might get paired up with somebody that you're not a huge fan of, and that's okay. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's learning to work in the differences and get past, what's the bigger picture is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
What you're trying to serve.
So let me ask you a question. Well, before I ask you my question, let me say this: when it comes to serving in a church, which obviously you have to, like I said, that relationship with God has to be healthy, and you have to understand the reason for serving and why serve, and
Right.
where your mind and your heart should be, and there are all kinds of things that kind of have to happen before you get there. But for me, I know a lot of people out there they have the job that they want.
Mhm.
They're exactly where they want to be work wise, and or they're working towards where they want to be work wise or financially, whatever that scenario looks like for them. For me, I don't know what it is about me. In my mind, and I'm not even like I wouldn't say I'm not like a super deep abstract thinker or anything like that. I'm just gaze at the stars and wonder. But for me, and maybe it's because I've grown up in church. It's because I've grown up knowing God. But for me, I've always found myself, man, every now and then in my life, just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? What are we really doing here?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of all this?
Mhm.
And as far as work, and I mean, I could always use more money, but I've always had a job. At some point, I was working towards what I thought would have been a dream job.
Right.
I've always, been making money. I've never not worked, so it's not. I've never felt like lost in terms of a job or anything like that. But I mean, real purpose. And I felt like, and I would feel like, okay, that even if I do have this dream job, I'm able to do it for 30, 40, 50 years if I'm lucky, right? And then what? You retire from that job at some point, or even if you die doing it, then what?
Yeah.
That was finite, right? That it just ends.
Right.
That's my life. Or even if it's with my family who I love dearly. So do I just spend my time here on this planet, this small little rock, and just get all the love I can get and give all the love I could give? And when I lay on my deathbed, I could say I loved hard and this and that or whatever. I took care of my family, and then I die and that's it.
Yeah.
To me, that seems empty.
Right.
And it makes me feel like a drifter, Now, I've always believed in what I've read and what I've heard in terms of God and eternity, and something like that for me, it makes sense to me, because I would rather do something and be a part of something that lasts, that has real impact, that has a true legacy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're telling me that there are things that I can do right here, right now, that will last forever.
Yeah.
That can actually make legitimate impact on somebody's life here and after. Right. So for me, that's what I want.
Mhm.
You're telling me I can do that in God. You're telling me I can do that through a church. I'm in, man. That's
Yeah.
so for me in terms of that, like that's something that service has for me. I don't know exactly how much I have to offer. I
Mhm.
don't know what I can actually give, but if this is something that I can do, man, I'll do it
Yeah.
because I want it. I want it to last.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something that I think about. You
Mhm.
know, like I don't know. I'm not trying to be like dark or anything like
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
it's true. Like this is all going to end.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh, yeah,
man,
yeah.
we were just talking the other day. Somebody was passed away that we
Yeah.
knew at a young age, and it's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for a lot of reasons, but that person was so young.
Yeah.
You know, with so much more to go, and you and I believe a world of potential.
Right.
You know, and so things like that, it's hard now. If you believe what I believe, and even if life, you know, the end does come for you, maybe sooner than we think it should, but you had that the knowledge of God.
Mhm.
You know, you had repentance in your life or whatever you believe in an eternity beyond this world. Okay,
Mhm.
I'll put it this way: there are people that we've lost, and we know that they absolutely believed what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
They absolutely loved God. They absolutely served God until their last breath. And I believe with all my heart that I will see them at some point in a way that I've never seen them before, and in a way that will last,
Mhm.
that won't fade. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that's for me. That's something for me for service.
Yeah.
That's what helps me.
Yeah.
Serving the church, it's serving in any capacity. It's hard. It's a sacrifice, but that's kind of my mindset and how it helps me go. Now, I want to
Yeah.
ask you a question. From the outside looking in, from if you're not a church attender, you know, you're not someone who has a church or goes to a church or even thinks necessarily you have a church and you need a church, but you're standing on the outside looking in, what would you say are some of the issues with religion? What are some of the
Mm.
issues with church that people may have? Because, like I said, I think I think it's vital, it's important, and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But what are the issues? What's the problem with church?
Yeah.
What are the problems with religion?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I just know from experience, man. Like I remember something that kind of sticks out is I had a conversation with one of the guys at my last job, and we were talking about church because everybody's a different faith. There are some Catholics there, some Christians, whatever.
Mhm.
One thing I remember he said was he said, yeah, I don't like I don't mind reading my Bible, man. I don't mind praying to God, but I don't like going to church because it's just nothing but a bunch of regulations and rules and men trying to
Okay.
tell me what to do
Okay, there you
on
go.
their own belief.
Okay.
And
And what's your response to that?
I remember we talked and I told him, I said, how long have you been invested into a church?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a one-time go? Have you ever really spent time like in a church?
Mm-hmm.
He said, no. Okay. So I told him, I said, look, as preachers that we're given, it's biblical that they're necessary.
Mm-hmm.
They're here to teach us. They're here to lead us. They're here to, in a way help, shepherd us in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't know what church you've been to. I don't know what you've heard. But one thing I do know, man, is that preachers are here to preach the word of God, but there are such thing as people, especially nowadays, even like a lot of pastors kind of put their own spin or their own perspective on it, even like on a scripture.
Oh, like generally speaking.
Yeah, generally
Okay,
speaking,
yeah.
right, right, yeah. And so
I was like, who are they?
yeah, and so one thing I told him, I said, man, I think more than anything, you got to get an understanding of who God is before you do a preacher.
Again, you
know
need
what I
some
mean?
relationship before you.
It's necessary.
Yeah,
because in otherwise, it's
gonna seem weird.
Of course. And so I told him, I was like, if you get there, when you get there, I was like, first go for yourself. Understand. I told you, do you understand that you need a relationship with God? Well, yeah, that's why I pray and I read. Okay, so you pray, you read. If you say you're a man of reading, do you not believe that church is essential in your life? Mm-hmm. Well, I do. It's just that guys, it's just that way that people make it sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't help with you what you hear, but what I can say is go there, dude, and just pray, God, if this is where you want me, keep me here. Mm-hmm. Show me.
Yeah.
And I believe God will. So it's kind of hard. It's really tricky because I feel like almost anything you kind of answer with, there's almost like an automatic response for it.
Mhm.
So I guess in some way, you got to kind of ask yourself, like, is relationship important to you?
Mhm.
Is religion really important? Do you really believe what you're reading, what
Yeah.
you're saying, you're praying? And I think if that's not there, then of course everything is gonna seem kind of funky.
That's
You
a
know what I
big one,
mean?
isn't it? It's a big one of like the rules and that kind of thing. And I think growing up, I think that's and this is cool because there are a lot of people that I grew up with,
Hmm.
teenagers who grew up and they got real bitter towards the church because of all these rules, right?
Mhm.
There are all these rules. And I'll say this, how about this? I'll say that as the church, because you and I are part of the church and
Right.
we also make up the church, I feel that as a church, maybe sometimes we can do a little bit of a better job to our teenagers, our younger folks,
Yeah.
our younger generation about explaining what those are.
Yep.
As opposed to just don't do this, don't do
Yeah.
that. It makes you a
Yeah,
sinner.
because
and
I
you will-
said so.
and you will
Yeah,
burn in
because it
hell if
says,
you
yeah,
don't do
yeah.
it. But the truth is, God, and see, like that's you. And the reason I say that is because that's a misrepresentation of God.
Yeah.
God is not someone who just says, "Don't do this, don't do that," because I'm God and I said so. That is not God.
Yeah.
Because those things will ultimately hurt yourself.
Right.
Like, let me keep it real. Having a sexual relationship with a bunch of different people and just kind of moving through, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt you in a lot of ways. It's going to hurt how you have relationships, how you see relationships.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of those things. Now, like I said, as a church, maybe sometimes we can do a better job, talking about those, but I think what I've always been after more so is understanding, right?
Mm.
If you understand what we're talking about, if you understand why you shouldn't do these things, I'm not saying it's always going to be, oh, the light just went on. I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
Of course not. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because we're human, but it certainly helps.
Yeah.
And you're not going to look at me, hopefully, as just somebody who wants to just ruin all my fun.
Yeah.
And so I think for certain things, like, there are standards, but they're not my standards.
Right.
There's the standards that come from the Word of God, and they have a reason. If you go through Proverbs, if you go through Ecclesiastes, it says why. A lot of it's in almost like a poem form, but it says it leads to death. Well, some of that is a little figurative, but it can lead to death in a bunch of ways,
Right.
And all the things that I did, all the ways that I messed up, there were all things that at one time or another, someone told me, you probably shouldn't do that, bud.
Yeah.
You got, that's not a good thing to do. Here's why. Guess what? It all led to hurt.
Yeah.
It all ended up hurting me later.
Mm-hmm.
Was it fun at the time? It was great at the time.
Yeah.
I had a blast at the time, right? I thought I was, it felt right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Down the road, it hurt me, man.
Mm.
Down the road, it left me with regrets, right? And those are the things that I would try to convey to people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the false, that's just a misrepresentation. It's all rules. Well, if the church is from God and of God, and we try to pursue after God, it's our responsibility to convey and, like you just said, teach what those standards of God are.
Yeah.
Here's another problem, right? That I see an issue if I'm standing from the outside looking in. Well, people are judgmental.
Yeah.
People are real judgmental. Now, let me make two distinctions here. Number one, there are judgmental people everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? We can go to lunch after this, and we're going to meet some judgmental people.
Yeah.
In the,
Newsflash.
Yeah. Hey, if I'm wearing my mask before I walk in or not walk in, I might get some weird stares depending on who's around.
Right.
There's judgmental people everywhere.
Everywhere
okay?
you go. Yeah.
Now, so there's that. There's some judgmental people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They might trickle into the church every now and then.
Yeah.
Right? Also, sometimes what we perceive as judgmental is because we're being, the topic of what we're doing, and it's not a good thing to be doing, is being talked about.
Yeah.
And it's being talked about as a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people call it judgmental. I call it conviction.
Yeah.
You feel it, man, and you don't like it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to be called on their stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
I've yet to meet a person who's sincerely like, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would list it all the time. No, it's not. And the truth is, when you go to a church, when you attend a church, I hope so, at some point, you're going to hear some things throughout that sermon or in Bible study or whatever. You're going to hear some things come up, and it's going to resonate with you because it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And you're not doing it. And you're doing that thing.
Yeah.
I that's something that may have even become a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
It is the whole "don't judge me." Only God can judge me. Yeah. Lord have mercy. I don't want to judge you, man. Yeah. You think that's what I want to do?
Yeah.
I am not here to just hold you accountable for all those things. I got my own rap sheet.
Yeah.
I don't need to be messing with yours, But if this is what I'm called to, and you're my brother, and I see it, first of all, we have a relationship. Dude, call me out on talk to me, Yeah. I'm going to say it. I need to come to a church that I need to be somewhere where people are going to be honest with me.
Right.
Where people are going to be real with me. I hope they do it in the right way. There is a right way to do it. We used to make fun of a friend of ours because when we were younger, we'd go on an outreach. And I remember that person got the mic and was like, "You're going to hell, but God can save you." Just like a teenager preaching hellfire and brimstone, right? Yeah. It's like, whoa, kill the mic, dude. But at the time, that was kind of how you did it.
Right.
But we realized today, like, you preach the gospel. There's the truth of the gospel.
Right.
There's the truth of the Bible. There's the truth of the word of God, but there's grace. There's grace. Yeah. And those two, just like relationship and religion, the truth and grace have to be reconciled to one another.
Yeah.
It has to be. And so I've met, for me, you gave me your experience. For me, my experience has been a lot of the church is a bunch of judgmental hypocrites.
Hypocrites.
I said it.
It's another one.
Hypocrites.
Yeah.
Again, I feel, and I'm open on this one. I feel like it's hurt people talking.
Yeah.
There's absolutely hurt people in the church. There's absolutely hurt people outside of the church. And when you mix up a bunch of hurt people tend to get a little more hurt.
Yeah.
That's true. Saying?
Yeah.
And here's the thing about like the hypocrite thing, man. It's like, and again, I am not the church's lawyer today.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But I've been here, for a long enough time. I've seen that some people have legitimately gotten hurt from other people in church or from church or whatever. And that's people being people.
Yeah.
That's flawed people being flawed people getting together and having a bunch of flaws, but as far as the whole hypocrisy thing, there's the other side of it, which is I'm trying. You could call me a hypocrite and I probably wouldn't fight you too hard on it because there are things that I've shared with people. There are things that I believe and there are areas that I've failed. Now, I've not held it over anybody's head and said, you need to do this and you're not doing it and shame on you.
Right.
I've not done that because nobody's done that to me.
Right.
But what I have to share with you, I'm going to share it with you. Like this is what you're doing, and man, there's a better way to do it.
For sure.
We should do this.
Yeah.
And if I'm sharing with you, man, I failed in this way, or man, I'm with you because I fail in that way.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a hypocrite. No, man, human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a difference.
Right.
And so there's a way to do that. But I just think that the church is made up of a lot of people who need healing. And
for sure.
I think a scary thing is, and it goes straight back to relationship, that this is just a circle that we're going to keep going in.
Yeah.
Because you need to have both.
Yes.
And if you're coming to church, but you're not working on your relationship with God, your experience is going to be a little more empty. It's going to run dry a little bit more often. And you're going to run into these personal issues with people a little more often because the relationship side with God is not where it should be.
Right.
You're not pursuing it in the way that you should be.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
And I think both too, because I feel like, because the thing is, like, for people, two things happen, man. Either you leave, right, if you get hurt, or you continue to stay in the church, and maybe you even get to a point to where you're serving in the church, but you're doing it with a bitter heart. People who are have issues and stuff like that. I mean, I remember for me, man, I didn't leave at first. I was still serving, but it was always with like, man, like, like I'm singled out here. Like, man, it's just doing it with it, and it spiritually it's immature because what I could have done is I could have talked to somebody.
Yeah.
I could have took it to God, but instead I continued to serve. But it was at a grunt, like, oh man, like, this place and this,
Begrudgingly.
these
Yeah.
people, man. But I'm just gonna do whatever. I'll keep to myself, and that's not good either.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times people just got to get past, like, dude, I'm here for me. I don't control what other people do. And I remember, like, a lot of times, like, my dad was somebody that I talked to a lot about majority of it was complaints, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And man, I just remember my dad telling me, like, it's not about them, it's about you.
Yeah.
How are you going to respond? How are you going to react? How are you not going to react?
Sure.
And so, and it's a lot easier said than done. But I think when people get to the realization of, like, hey man, like, this place is full of imperfect people trying to be better.
Yeah.
Trying on the mission to be better people, to be better servants, better husbands, better wives, better kids. Like, you just got to get past that whole, it's a false expectation. Look, if this place was filled with a bunch of perfect people and filled with, like, hey, I got the golden ticket, this place would be flooded, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people can't get past, like, and first of all, it's another thing. Not only, like, you obtaining salvation and relationship with God is for you, right?
Yeah.
But guess what, man? Your life, it's not about you. It's about God.
Right.
It's about doing something bigger than yourself. And I think a lot of times people get so stuck in the mentality, and this goes for even, like, at work. People can get stuck in this in their relationships.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm the only one putting in effort, man. I'm the only one doing this, and so-and-so's not doing this. But man, what about you? What are you doing? How are you going to react? How are you not going to react? And again, it's a lot easier said than done. And to be honest, man, I still fail at it. I still don't do a good job at reacting the right way.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I realize that the more, and I see the fruit of it too. When I do react the way that maybe I didn't used to before, I get different results. And that kind of encourages me, man, to keep making those decisions. And sometimes it is ignoring a certain word that maybe somebody said about you. Guess what? There's gossipers here too, man. There's people that talk too. So that's the thing is, like, understand, like, God never created the church, and God never created the pastors and the ministry workers and whoever else to be this place that has all the golden tickets to life, and all you got to do is just attend there 3 days a week.
I think that's huge.
And you're fine. You know what I mean?
You're right. That's good what you just said, because I think outside of the four walls of the church, we look at people. I'm speaking generally. We look at people, and we allow room for failure all the time.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the sense of,
Yeah.
like, when we're on the freeway and that person, cuts you off,
Yeah.
or they don't use their blinker and they jump in. Learn how to drive.
Yeah.
Learn how to drive.
Yeah.
And or you see them. It's funny because when you drive up to those people and they look scared, you're like, oh yeah, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're lost. You're lost, dude. Maybe you shouldn't be on the road.
They're not from here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
And so sometimes we allow some room for error, right? We allow our reasonable margin of error for people. To some extent. Maybe some people that margin's a lot less than others.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like, outside in life, at work, I allow some margin for error, man. I allow for a margin of error in somebody's weird personality.
Yeah.
I allow for a margin of error for there's this guy at work. I was given, like, this responsibility that's it's a weird thing, but basically I have to go around to people with this list of, like, their open orders and kind of get them resolved. So in a sense, I'm holding people accountable to something.
Right.
I have that much authority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, I have to be like, hey, well, this guy, the boss, told me to bring this to you.
Yeah.
I'm the middle messenger.
Yeah.
It's a weird job, but okay, I'll do it. And so I remember I took it to this one guy who, to be fair, I was kind of warned might be a little funky about it, and he was a little funky about it. And I played it cool, and I was like, all right, man, well, sure, if that's how you want to take it, but here you go anyway. I'm still gonna give it to you. And I allowed room for that error. And I'll be honest, I came out of there a little salty. But I tried to continue to the very next day and just be cool. And just be like, okay. And guess what? I found overall he's a decent dude. He just maybe doesn't, who knows, has an issue with authority or whatever. But what I'm saying is I allowed that margin for error.
For sure. For sure.
And it seems that sometimes when we start getting in the church, or we start talking about the church, or we start talking about religion, all of a sudden that margin for error shrinks down
tremendously.
to about this. And all of a sudden we expect perfection.
Right.
And it goes right back to what you said. There's no pliability.
Yeah.
There's no one's willing to bend. It's, you better treat me right. You better say the right thing.
Right.
You better preach the right thing, preacher. You better sing the right song leader. And you better greet me the right way.
Yeah.
And you better say hello to me just the right amount of times with the right amount of compliments, but not too. We get in this weird area and don't come near. This is where I sit, and all that. I've been in this seat for 20 years.
Yeah.
And all this weird. The margin for error shrinks way down. And I don't know why. I don't know why all of a sudden we just expect this level of perfection when it comes to the church. But it's something that we have to allow room for. And I think this is something just like for people, man.
Yeah.
I think for people, we have to allow that margin for error. And for me, there's this it's kind of an older song, but there's this song by a Christian band called 10th Avenue North. And they have a song called Losing. And that's what the whole song talks about. It's like, I feel like I'm losing, when they say this about me, when he says that, when they do that, when I get offended and I just try to be cool, or I try to, Lord, help me be humble the way you want me to. I feel like I'm losing, I feel like I'm being, like you're getting trampled on. But I think that's one thing, when it comes to relationship, when it comes to religion. So I think I know that we want to continue down this path, because there are some things that I want to straighten out. There's some things that between you and I, I shouldn't say straighten out like I've got all the answers. I should say talk it out. I should say have some dialogue. Especially just with experiences, with people. And like I said on this, I'm interested in questions people might have. Man, there are people who don't want to, like you said, just don't want to bend. That's such a good thing. You just have to be willing to bend. I think that's all I got. I think I just ran out of brain power.
And I think too, just lastly, like for people who are watching, and maybe I want to speak first to the backslider. That's kind of, and again, it's a term. Somebody who's away from Christ, who knows what they should be doing. Maybe you're away from your church right now. Look, at man, like we're not necessarily saying, "Hey, come join us," right? But get plugged in, get re-plugged in, reestablish yourself. If there's some things going on, there's some issues you had or whatever, talk about it with God. Let Him be the one to deal with it. In the meantime, and then for those who are on the outside looking in, like, hey, is this something I should be a part of? Look, all I got to say, but just give it a chance. Go there for yourself. What do you want in life? Who do you want to be? What are you trying to, where are you trying to get to? All purpose for you is only found in one person, and that's Jesus Christ, first of all. And I know that sounds so just, black and white, but for those who are, listening, is like, oh man, I don't know if I should give it a chance, or, because I have had these experiences before. Look, go, get plugged in, but go with the understanding of like, I'm here for me. I'm here for me. Make sure that, that pastor's, talking what's right. Obviously, you want to be hearing the right doctrine, of course. But I think for anybody who's, looking for a place, look, man, if you could go somewhere and they have solid teachers there, just get plugged in and understand that, there is no perfect group out there. Everybody's got a church with messed up people. We're all messed up. We're all trying, to get through life and to be better.
And I think you just brought me back around, and I'm sorry. I'll stop talking after this, but you reminded me when it comes to like looking for a church, because like you said, we're talking to whoever's listening, whether you're in church right now or maybe you're outside of church, but like you said, like your coworker, you believe in God, but we want to encourage you to get plugged in. Or maybe you came to church at first, and maybe the reason you left has something to do with what we're talking about. Either way, something that I wanted to share is A big part of coming to church is exactly what you just said, which is the person who's leading it.
Yeah.
The person that, for better or for worse, that is the structure of a church, to have a pastor, or maybe your church has a couple of pastors, but to have a pastor who leads it. And that pastor's full-time job is to seek God and to do his best to lead the church the way God has called the church to be led.
Yeah.
And it's important that you see that man. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
important that, you get to know that man to some degree, because you should know that what you just said in the relationship that we were just talking about, that he truly has your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
He will give you godly, right, advice, godly wisdom, and he'll lead you in that way. And I don't want to, like you said, it's not that I'm necessarily trying to plug our church, but something that has helped me immensely has been my pastor, because I'll tell you this, like I've allowed, and there are times, I'll be honest, there are times that it has sucked, but I've allowed myself to be open towards him, which has allowed him to ask me some hard questions. And there have been some times he's asked me some hard questions, man, the stuff I didn't want to talk about. But in having that conversation, it's helped me a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a ton. Is my pastor perfect? No, not by a long shot. But I believe he loves God. I believe his entire life is to serve God. And I believe he's very concerned with how God wants him to lead us and the church that God has given him. And so in that way, something that I feel is huge that pastor has done to me is, how are you doing? How's it going? What's going on? What's happening? Everything cool, and when it's not cool, I have to tell him. But in that regard, like, you have to have that relationship no matter what. Outside of the church, you're encouraged to have good people around you, but you're encouraged to have a mentor. Someone who you can learn from. You have to, right? And so for me in my life, it's been pastor in that way. But something that has been huge was being asked and then being honest. What's happening? What's up? What's going on? Where are you at? And in that regard, I've been honest, and I've been able to be led in that way. And that's a relationship. That's a very important relationship in my life. And in the same way, I've learned that when my pastor, makes time for me, or he's available for me to spend some time with him, I take advantage of it. Because there's something to get out of that. But anyway, just you said that, and it was like, man, that's absolutely important. That's a very important thing, that the word of God is preached as it is from the word of God. I think you said at the top of this thing that sometimes people try to kind of play with it and make it fit to whatever. That's important, but it's important to see the man that's leading it. It's important to have an idea of who he is, and he should be visible to you, and he should be available to you. That was huge. I think we'll keep going down this for at least one more, if not two. And for you, I'll say it on here, for you, for myself, and maybe for anybody else who wants to maybe message us about this stuff, is I would like you, and I want to think about, what are the issues? What are the issues? We said people, we said judgmental people, we said hypocritical people, we said the rules. I would be interested to know what you think, as far as, what might be some of those things. Maybe people will be willing to reach out to you somehow, or to me. And we'll kind of talk about those things, and
for sure
keep diving into maybe some experiences that we've had. But I think, allowing the room, understanding we're all people. And we'll keep working on relationship and religion, and how we can balance it.
That's it, man. Sounds good.
All right, dude. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, brother.